So let's take a look at this executive order that came out on January 24th of 2025. It's called Emergency Measures to Provide Water Resources in California and Improve Disaster Response in Certain Areas. Oh. The order really focuses on two major events, the fallout from the wildfires in Southern California and Hurricane Helene in North Carolina. Now, for our listeners in the business and investment world, this order is really important because it signals some serious potential profit opportunities that are going to come from the government's response to these disasters. And also looks like a completely new approach to how the state of California is going to be managing its water. First, let's just kind of lay out the situation. The wildfires in Southern California, they were tragic. Obviously, loss of life, but also widespread damage, with early estimates saying it could be in the hundreds of billions of dollars. The executive order specifically acknowledges that the whole nation has a stake in getting California back on its feet and preventing future wildfire disasters.
What I think is really fascinating here is the order's directive to a bunch of federal agencies like Defense, Justice, Homeland Security, all of them, to basically prioritize water resources for Southern California. It even allows for overriding state and local policies that are considered actively harmful to firefighting efforts.
So what we're seeing is a potential for a huge influx of federal resources and a loosening of regulations. Now, for businesses, that means opportunities in infrastructure development, water management, and disaster response. When you think about it, the order specifically instructs the Secretaries of the Interior and Commerce to maximize water deliveries to Southern California, even if it means overriding environmental regulations. So that opens up huge possibilities for new water storage and transportation projects.
Yeah, I think if we connect this to the bigger picture, what the order's really doing is setting the stage for a major shift in how California manages its water. By pushing for increased water deliveries and kind of going around existing state policies, the federal government is really inserting itself, taking a much more active role.
And for businesses, that translates to companies with expertise in dam construction, pipeline laying, and water treatment technologies. All of those are going to see a surge in demand. And it's not just about infrastructure. The order also calls for a complete top-to-bottom review of federal programs that are related to land management, water resources, and disaster preparedness. Now, that could lead to huge changes in how funding is prioritized and how grant allocations are made. That's going to create a ripple effect across a whole bunch of different sectors.
And I think what's really interesting is the possibility of a lot more public-private partnerships popping up. The order really encourages federal agencies to work with private companies, to really speed up projects. And that could create some pretty lucrative opportunities for those who are in a good position to take advantage.
So let's shift gears just a little bit and talk about the disaster response. The order very clearly outlines the steps to speed up relief and rebuilding efforts in both California and North Carolina. We're talking about streamlining housing assistance for displaced families and accelerating debris removal in affected areas.
And this part, this fast-tracking of disaster relief and rebuilding, that's where businesses that specialize in construction, logistics, and waste management are going to really shine. These are areas where the government really needs action now. They need expertise. And often they'll turn to private companies to get that done.
And here's where things get really interesting from a long-term perspective. This executive order really lays the groundwork for what could be a major change, like a paradigm shift in how California manages its water.
Think about it this way. The old system, with its real emphasis on conservation and all these environmental regulations, that's really being challenged here. This order prioritizes getting water to where it's needed, even if it means kind of sidestepping some of those long-standing rules.
So this opens up a whole new landscape for businesses and investors. Imagine all the possibilities for companies that are involved in desalination, water recycling, and efficient irrigation technologies. They could be at the forefront of this huge transformation.
Yeah, and the order's focus on overriding those environmental regulations I mentioned earlier. Well, that could also be a big plus for companies that are developing new water storage and water conveyance solutions. There's a real opportunity here to really rethink how we capture, store, and move water around.
Now, all that being said, this new direction also comes with some potential challenges. Overriding state regulations could definitely lead to legal battles, political pushback, creating some uncertainty for businesses. So for anyone operating in this space, staying informed about these developments and being ready to adapt is going to be really key.
Absolutely. What we're seeing here, it's almost like a high-stakes game. There are going to be winners and losers, and those who can anticipate the changes, navigate all the risks, and seize the opportunities, those are the ones who are going to come out on top. Let's dive a little deeper into some specific parts of the executive order. I think they really highlight the potential for profit here. If you look at Section 2, it's titled Overriding Disastrous California Policies. And it really cuts right to the chase. It's packed with instructions for streamlining water deliveries to Southern California. For instance, it calls for identifying and potentially overriding any regulations that make it harder to get water where it's needed most. And that could pave the way for faster approval of new water storage and transportation projects, which again creates opportunities for those businesses that specialize in dam construction, pipeline development, and water treatment technologies.
It's like the order is saying, look, we need water now, and we're not going to let red tape stand in the way. It's a sense of urgency, and it's a really clear signal to businesses that the time to act is now.
Exactly. And it's not just about Southern California either. The order also directs the Secretary of the Interior to use all available powers to operate the Central Valley Project. That's a major water infrastructure system in California. It's all about delivering more water to communities in need. And this could even involve overriding state and local laws that conflict with this goal, which again could lead to increased demand for businesses involved in water management, irrigation technologies, and agricultural services.
So it's not just about building new infrastructure. It's also about optimizing the use of what we already have. And that could be a real game changer for companies that specialize in making those water systems more efficient.
Absolutely. Now, Section 3 of the executive order, ending the subsidization of California's mismanagement, that's particularly intriguing, I think, for investors. It calls for a comprehensive review of all federal programs that relate to land management, water resources, and disaster preparedness in California. And this review could result in a pretty significant shift in funding priorities. It could create a whole new landscape of opportunities for businesses that align with the federal government's agenda.
And this is where it becomes crucial for businesses to pay attention and really understand the nuances of this order. Where's the money going? What projects are being prioritized? Those who can answer those questions will be in a prime position to capitalize on the opportunities.
Precisely. The order specifically directs the Director of the Office of Management and Budget to review all relevant federal programs and then make recommendations to the President. Those recommendations could involve adjusting the terms of existing federal grants or adding new conditions to future funding to ensure sound disaster prevention and response. So what this means is a potential reallocation of resources toward projects that emphasize water conservation, wildfire mitigation, and disaster resilience, potentially benefiting businesses that operate in those sectors.
This is where we start to see the ripple effects of this order, reaching far beyond just the immediate crisis. It's about reshaping how we think about and prepare for future challenges.
Exactly. And the order doesn't stop there. Section 4 focuses specifically on additional actions to help Los Angeles families. It outlines measures to expedite housing assistance for displaced families, streamline debris removal, and ensure the effective use of federal preparedness grants for the city of Los Angeles. Those directives present clear opportunities for businesses specializing in housing construction, waste management, and disaster recovery services.
So while there's a big picture focus on water management and infrastructure, the order also very clearly addresses the immediate needs of those folks who have been affected by these disasters. And that means there are opportunities for businesses of all sizes to get involved in the recovery effort.
Precisely. Section 5 of the order focuses on similar actions to help families that were affected by Hurricane Helene in North Carolina. It prioritizes efforts to expedite roadway clearance and rebuilding, including a section of Interstate 40 that was damaged by the hurricane. And this focus on infrastructure repair and reconstruction presents opportunities for businesses in the construction, engineering, and transportation sectors.
So we're seeing opportunities emerge across multiple states and sectors. This isn't just a California story, it's a national one.
That's right. And finally, Section 6 lays out the general provisions. It clarifies that the order should be implemented consistently with applicable law, and that it's subject to the availability of appropriations. This provision really underscores the importance of businesses closely monitoring the regulatory landscape, as well as funding allocations to effectively capitalize on the opportunities that are presented.
This is a crucial point, I think, for businesses to keep in mind. While the order signals a major shift in policy, the details of its implementation are going to continue to evolve. Staying informed and adaptable will be key to success.
Absolutely. So to recap the key takeaways from these specific provisions, the order prioritizes expedited action. potentially overriding existing regulations to meet the immediate needs of those communities affected by these disasters. It emphasizes a shift in California's water management policy, potentially leading to significant investments in new water infrastructure and technologies. It calls for a comprehensive review of federal programs, which suggests a potential realignment of funding priorities towards projects that emphasize disaster preparedness and resilience. And it outlines specific actions to expedite relief and rebuilding efforts, creating clear opportunities for businesses involved in housing, infrastructure, and disaster recovery.
Now let's dig a little deeper into what this all means for businesses and investors. What are the potential opportunities and challenges? I think one of the most significant implications of this order is the potential for a surge in government contracts, particularly related to disaster relief and infrastructure development. So businesses with expertise in areas such as debris removal, housing construction, and roadway repair are very likely to see a spike in demand for their services.
We're talking about billions of dollars in potential contracts here. This is a massive opportunity for businesses that are ready to step up and meet the challenge.
And it's not just about the immediate recovery effort either. The orders focus on overriding existing regulations, particularly in California's water management sector. Well, that could create a much more favorable environment for certain types of projects. This could benefit businesses involved in dam construction, pipeline development, desalination, and other water infrastructure solutions.
This is a potential game changer for companies that have been struggling to navigate that complex regulatory landscape in California. This order could open doors that were previously closed.
However, and this is really crucial to remember, this shift in regulatory approach also presents some potential challenges. The executive order's fairly aggressive approach could face legal challenges and political opposition. And that creates uncertainty for businesses operating in the space.
This is where careful planning and risk assessment become essential. Businesses need to be prepared for the possibility of delays, lawsuits, and changes in policy.
Furthermore, the order's emphasis on expedited action could lead to rushed decision-making and potential oversight issues, which could pose risks for businesses that are involved in those government contracts.
This highlights the importance of due diligence and thorough vetting of potential projects. Businesses need to make sure that they are partnering with reputable organizations and that the projects they are undertaking are well conceived and well managed.
The review of federal programs and potential changes in grant conditions could also create challenges for businesses that rely on existing funding streams. So it's vital for businesses to stay informed about these potential shifts and adapt their strategies accordingly.
This is where staying connected to industry associations and government agencies becomes paramount. Information is power in this rapidly changing environment.
So overall, this executive order creates a very dynamic environment for businesses and investors. Those who can effectively navigate this landscape by staying informed, identifying the right opportunities, and mitigating potential risks are likely to benefit from this shift in government policy.
It's a time of great opportunity, but also great uncertainty. The winners will be those who can adapt and thrive in this new environment.
So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about potential investment strategies in light of this executive order. First and foremost, I think it's important to remember that this order really throws the doors wide open for companies involved in infrastructure. I mean, think about the massive scale of the projects that are implied here. Dams, pipelines, desalination plants. It's a construction and engineering bonanza.
Oh, yeah, we're talking about a potential gold rush for companies with the right expertise. I mean, the sheer volume of projects that could be set in motion by this order is just staggering.
Companies with a proven track record in these areas are going to be in really high demand. So if you're looking at, construction giants, engineering firms, the companies that are supplying specialized equipment, or even those that are providing logistical support for these massive projects, those are some areas to really consider.
Yeah, and it's not just about those big players either. Smaller, more niche companies that have specialized skills in areas like geotechnical engineering or environmental permitting, they could also find themselves in really high demand.
Next, let's talk about water management technologies. This executive order, it's not just about moving more water around, it's about managing it more effectively.
This is where the real innovation comes into play. I mean, the order creates a huge incentive for companies to develop and deploy cutting-edge technologies that can help us all use water more wisely.
So this creates a huge opportunity for companies specializing in water-efficient irrigation systems, smart water metering, leak detection, water treatment technologies.
Imagine a future, right, where we can track every single drop of water from the source all the way to its consumption. minimizing waste and maximizing efficiency. I think that's the kind of future this order could actually help create.
Investors should really keep an eye on companies that are developing those innovative solutions in these areas because they're very likely to see a surge in demand. And of course, let's not forget about disaster preparedness and recovery. The executive order very clearly highlights the need for a robust and rapid response to future events.
This is about being proactive, not reactive.